Well, good morning and welcome to the vlog. Now, a couple of weeks ago you might remember that I released a vlog from Wheathampstead where I went out for sunset to take some images of some poppies. Now, while I was there I tried a bit of multiple exposure ICM, and I didn't really go into too much detail about it because, to be quite frank, I wasn't sure if it was going to work. As it happens, it turned out, I think, really nice. So I like the images, I enjoyed doing it and also enjoyed the editing. So I thought what I would do is I would actually come out today and go through the process a bit more of actually taking the images and then going home and editing the images to get a nice abstract ICM multiple exposure poppy shot or two. So yeah, that's the plan for today. So you may recognise this place. This is where I came to last year for my poppy shots. I did a couple of vlogs from here and they are fantastic. They're actually better than last year. They're really, really beautiful at the moment. But I'm not going to take any landscape shots here at all today. Well, not this morning anyway. I may come back later. My sole purpose of my visit today is this multiple exposure ICM. Now, I found that what tends to work, or what worked last time, certainly for me anyway, was to get some base images, which is basically some images of the poppies in general, so more of the poppies, and be really vigorous with my movement to get them really blurred and to get some interesting shapes, and then to focus on one or two or three poppies and take a lot of images of those and try not to move around too much. It doesn't matter if they're not pin sharp, that's not what this is about, but just to try and get a number of shots of these poppies in ever so slightly different positions, so when I blend them together you get a much more pleasing effect. So that's the plan for today. I'll start off with the base images and talk you through how I do those. So what I'm aiming for here with these images, these first set of images, is I'm trying to get a reasonably long shutter speed, and I'm just trying to be quite vigorous with my movement. So to do that, to get a long shutter speed or a longer shutter speed in these conditions, I need to stop down as far as I can. So I've got my camera on aperture priority, I'm on f/18, I've got my ISO set to ISO 50 on here, and I've also got the polarizer on just to lose a couple more stops of light, and that currently is giving me an exposure time of about 1/5 of a second. So for me, anywhere between 1/8 of a second and 1/2 a second is fine. And then basically all I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick out some of these clumps of poppies and just be quite vigorous with my movement when I'm taking the shot, and just try different things, twisting, moving, turning, all of the things, basically anything I can, just to get some really interesting patterns. If I can find some other colours as well as the poppies, then I might look for that as well, because sometimes that works. The idea is not to be too scared, just shoot away, fire away, try everything, try anything. Sometimes it's best not to have the poppies so much in that shot because you don't want red all over your background image. Try and get some different colours, like there's some little pink flowers here that I'm using, the greens of the grasses, and even the browns here of this mud, because I can adjust the colours in Lightroom and really get a bit funky with that. So when you're taking those base layers, like I said, just really, for me anyway, I'm really trying not to get too much poppy in, a little bit of poppy in, but mainly just different colours, and just really go wild, try everything, try zoom in, try just shake your camera, just have a bit of fun, and then, you know, take lots of shots, see what you come out with at the end of it. So now I've taken some pictures of these groups of poppies here, the large field of poppies. I'm now trying to isolate out a few for the second part of the exposure. So I've got these poppies here behind me, and they're quite nicely positioned actually, because they're quite separated. So what I'm doing is I'm just focusing in on a few. I've got a couple here that I've picked, with one just off to the side, and I'm taking lots of images of those. Again, I'm taking longer shutter speeds, some slightly less length shutter speeds. I'm moving my camera, I'm moving the poppies in the frame, so they're in different areas of the frame when I take a shot. I'm zooming in a little bit, I'm zooming out a little bit. I'm just getting these poppies, getting as many shots of these poppies as I can, because what I'll do is I'll then blend them all together when I get them home, and hopefully you'll have the essence of a couple of poppies, but you'll also have some of the zoomed in bits coming through, some of the moved around in the frame bits coming through, and that might look hopefully quite nice. The other thing as well that I've noticed is, if I get some images of these poppies, if I can get the grass in focus as well, that comes through really nicely on the double X, or the multiple exposure, because you're getting all these little lines, and that seems to add something to the picture, a little bit of texture. So as well as colour in there, there's a little bit of texture as well, which is quite nice. So yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. So I'm just basically going around, picking out individual or small groups of poppies, taking lots of shots of each of those groups in lots of different ways to blend together later. Okay, so I'm just about done here. I've taken lots of images. That is one of the key things, take lots and lots and lots of images. I've taken a lot of images of single poppies. I've taken a lot of images of the large number of poppies. I've done lots of different types of movement. I've tried lots of different shutter speeds and focal lengths. I've tried lots of different apertures. I've focused on different areas. So the key thing to take away from this is shoot lots. Just keep firing away, just keep experimenting, keep trying. So I've got enough shots in the bag now, I think, that I'm going to go home and I'm going to start to edit them, and that's where I'll see you in a minute.
Okay, so we're back now in Lightroom at home, and here are some of the images that I've taken. I have colour coded them for backgrounds and groups of poppies that I want to use. I took about 550 images altogether, so not too bad. And like I said, when I was out in the field, tried lots of different techniques, lots of different methods, different focal lengths, different shutter speeds, and these are the ones that I've got to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at these. So I'm going to take this one first here, and I'm going to use this as, I call it my base layer, but actually it's more like a top layer. So I'm going to use this one as my top layer first. So what we should do is I should export this one out, not export it, sorry, edit it in Photoshop, and that will hopefully bring it up in Photoshop in a moment. Okay, so I've now got that, and now what I need to do is I need to find a few poppy images of the same poppy to blend together to put underneath this layer. It's quite like these large ones here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, let's say, these 4. They all look pretty similar, but they should work, and maybe that one as well. So these 5 here, and I'm going to edit them in Photoshop as layers. Okay, so now they've all opened up, what I'm going to do is just let you have a look through them here. They're all ever so slightly different, so they're just in slightly different parts of the frame, slightly blurred in that case. significantly blurred. What I'm going to do is select them all and convert them to a smart object. So now that's converted that to a smart object, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to the layer tab at the top here, and I'm going to go down to smart objects, and I'm going to select stack mode and mean. And what that's going to do is it's going to stack all of these objects on top of one another in a sort of and give the average of the image. So basically pick out the bits of the each image and just average it out across into one layer. So there you go, that's done that now, and I quite like that. That's it's nice, there's not too much detail in it, but you can definitely or clearly tell that there are poppies there. And what I like is when you look into these bits here, you've got some nice sort of detail and interesting bits where the grasses have come through, so I quite like that. So what I'm going to do now is select that and hit copy, and then I'm going to paste it into this top layer here. Appreciate I could have just done Control and V, but never mind. Okay, now I'm going to move the top layer back above it like that, and I'm going to click this button down here and add a layer mask, and I'm just going to select the paint tool and I'm going to flip these round. And if you notice, I haven't got it set to black. So with a layer mask, you've got black is completely basically gets rid of that layer completely. White brings it back completely, but in between, the colour, the greys in between will take out varying amounts of the layer. So this one is, so if I'll start, let's start it off with a bit of a lighter grey, so somewhere about halfway. And what that's going to do is it's going to delete half of that layer but still leave the other half there. So as you can see there, it's just painting a bit through and then leaving a bit as well. And then I'll go back to the colour here and I'll darken it down a bit, and then I'll just paint a bit more away in the areas where I think it might need it. So I'm just being a little bit around the edges here. And of course, if I wanted to, I could just reverse this back and then just paint it, the layer back on, but actually that's not pure white there. But so I could just paint it back in, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to paint this out here. I quite like that. That's not too bad there. But I think what I'm going to do, like I said, it's a very organic process. This it's not just. I think if you go in here and you say, right, I'm going to follow these instructions and paint this a little bit grey and then paint this bit a bit, you know, and add this bit here and do a mean here of these layers, it doesn't quite work like that. I don't think. I think you have to be a little bit more what's the word, you have to be a little bit more well, organic with it. You got to be, you know, a bit less structured with it. So I'm actually going to come and select this layer. In fact, I don't think I'm going to select that now. I think I might have this one here, this image here, and I'm going to edit that in Photoshop. I'm just really now just playing about with it. And that should show up, and then I'm going to select this layer and Control C to copy and Control V to paste that over the top, and let's drop the opacity down on that just so I can have a little look at what's what. I think I might take this layer here, so let's just okay, select it here, and I'm going to free transform it, and I'm going to enlarge it a bit, although I don't want it to be too much like the original. I think what I'll do is I will flip it vertically and flip it horizontally, because what I'm trying to do basically, if I turn this off here and I'll just show you this layer here, I want to get some interest around these bottom bits, a little bit more interest around the bottom here, maybe up at the top here. So if I can drag this down, so somewhere around there, I think I might actually that kind of mirrors that a bit too much there, I think. So I think what I might do is just free transform it again and just twist it around a little bit, pull it over down into here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop it under that layer, and I'm going to add on a layer mask, and I'm going to select pure black. I'm going to paint out this bit here, around here, a little bit there. Oops, wrong one. And that's not too bad. It's pulling the top one for some reason. Let's turn that one off. Pull that down a little bit, turn that top one back on, and there's just a little bit of interest now in this bottom corner. And I might do the same up here for the top, but I'm not 100% sure. I actually quite like it like that, so no, I don't think it looks too bad. The other thing I might do is I might just go back into here and select, where are they, select one of these. Let's have a look at that one, a bit more of a clearer one I want, if I can find one. Actually, that might not look too bad, so I'm going to also edit that in Photoshop. Okay, and I'm going to copy this layer out here, Control and C, and Control, I'll post it in there, Control and V, turn the opacity down on that a bit, quite a bit. Just kind of want to get that feel of this, just this little bit of detail in here. So if I turn the opacity back up, you see what I'm getting at. So I want a bit of that detail in, but I don't want too much. In fact, what I might do is I might turn it up to there, and I might switch that off for a minute, put a layer mask on here, come back out, and just paint out everything around those two little bits there. So they're the only things that are remaining. And then switch that one back on. Still need to turn that down a bit, I think. Maybe just move this layer across, so it's just slightly off and back on. Okay, so I quite like that. I quite like that as a finished piece here in Photoshop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this. Okay, so here it is in Lightroom, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start to make some Lightroom adjustments just to really sort of give it a bit of interest. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bump up the dehaze a little bit. I'll probably bump up the clarity a little bit, but not too much. And I play about here with the temperature. These are the best bits here, the temperature and the tint, because you can go really orangey. So if you want a really orangey look, you can push the colour, push the warmth up and pull the tint down. Or if you want to go for a more cooler look, then you can just cool the temperature down a bit and push the tint into the purple. And see, I quite like that. I'm going to push the whites up a bit and push the blacks up. I don't want it to be too much. Contrast is not good on this. I want a little bit less contrast. Push the highlights up a tiny bit, push the shadows, let's pull the shadows back a little bit, and then we can play about with the vibrance and saturation. So I don't want to go too far with either of these, because if I push this up too high, you're losing all your detail. So you've got to try and keep your detail as well in the image. So just not too much on the vibrance and saturation. Maybe just pull the dehaze back a tiny bit. And let's add in a bit of a vignette. So sort of there, and let's just push the clarity, not too much. Maybe it's just a question of playing about with it a little bit until you get what you want. I quite like that. That's maybe a little bit blue. It's just a little bit, pull it a little bit back. There. And there you go. I quite like that. That's an interesting enough little ICM image. You've got the detail. If you look in here, you got some really nice little detail here of the seed pods, and then you've got the sort of much more vagueness around of these petals, and you've got the purple in here of the flower from the top layer, and you've got the greens of the grass and some interesting texture of sort of like where the grasses are, you know, where you've got the nice lines of the grass. I think that looks quite nice, really. I mean, it's like I say, it's not everyone's cup of tea. Of course it isn't. Not everyone's going to like it, and there's been so many ICM vlogs lately. I mean, if you're going to watch an ICM vlog, really, the only one you really want to watch is Andy Gray. Thomas Heaton did a thing with him the other day. He's really the guy who I mean, that's his thing, that's his genre. We're all just copying it, really. But Christ, since I started, I mean, I'm not saying that anyone's copying me, but blimey, since I did the first one, it seems everyone's doing ICM. But yeah, that's basically how I go about creating these images, and I'll pop a few more up for you that I've done from this trip, and yeah, so I very much hope that you enjoy them.